there's an interesting thought experiment that I do and many other people do when they study decision making of managers. And it's a very simple thought experiment is that what would have happened if you got the opposite result? Many of us think that the results that we get are because of the actions that we deserve, but many times that there's other things that happen that are completely the opposite. So you might do the same actions and you would come up with a plausible reason for this sort of successful thing to happen. On the opposite side, somebody else might do the exact same plausible thing, but because of randomness that happens in the environment, they get the complete opposite outcome. So here you do all of the same things, follow all of the same advice, and you get some sort of very successful outcome and you become a millionaire or whatever it is. On the opposite side, you do the same thing, you follow the exact same advice, you're just in a slightly different environment and you get complete failure and you do something that doesn't work out for you. And so, us as human beings, we look at these things and we think that we are to blame. In fact, what this is called is the outcome bias. This is where we look at simply the outcome and we don't understand how things actually happen to actually get there. And it's very common for us to think about this outcome bias and think that we are the reason why there was a successful event, or we are the reason why we actually failed. And we internalize these things and we process these things and we think of ourselves in terms of these outcomes. I'm a university graduate. I am you know, I went bankrupt. All of these things are quite plausible outcomes that we think about. Instead, what we should be looking at is how we actually got there. And so this is how I want you to transform the way that you are going to work with your routine, your work routine. So you're not going to focus on the outcomes. You're not going to focus on how you became successful or that you were a failure. Instead, what I want you to think about is what's the process that you do every day that is going to allow somebody to have a significantly improved chance of getting a little better in the next go round. And that's it. Sometimes you go through and you do all of the same actions and you do improve a little bit. And that's why I want you to think about just a significantly improved chance of getting better. What is that? Maybe it's only a 5% chance. So that means out of the 100 people that try it, only 5 people are going to improve. The other are not going to improve, and some of them are actually going to get worse. So this is what I want to transform and have you think about. And it's an easy thing to think about is once you start believing that outcomes are often outside of your control. We know that as somebody that studies it and thinks about it, we often think that many outcomes in our lives are out of our control. And if that's the case, I want you to change the way that you look at the world. I want you to think in terms of not like I'm a success or I did everything right or wrong. What I want you to think about is how can I encourage other people? How can I show empathy? How can I resonate with other people? Now I'm going to give you the reason why it's such an important thing to show empathy, to make sure that you are doing things that are about encouragement rather than the outcomes itself. So, why is that the case? Well, many times, even when you're successful, even when you're a failure, things do not work out the way that you intended them to work out. You could do all of the process along the way and do it completely perfectly and it not work out for you. So, I want you to show empathy to other people and say, you know what? I completely understand. So, what does that mean? What does it mean to show empathy? That is where you actually put your feet in somebody else's shoes, where you say, I completely understand where you're coming from. I have been in that circumstance. I do not understand how you feel at this moment, but I've been in a similar circumstance. Man, it did not feel well for me. This is what happened to me. And I understand if you want to make a different choice, but this is what happened. And it was very difficult for me to process this and to think about this, but this is what happened. Hopefully, you can use this as an example for you to learn going forward. Now, why is that such an important thing? First of all, it helps you recognize that there's other people out there that are going and doing the same thing that you are doing and it's not working out for them. The other thing I want you to think about is the world as it exists right now, in terms of how you view it, is not actually the world that exists right now. What do I mean? It means that there are opportunities that come out in different ways that you never presumed would happen. And the reason why they happen to you is because you treated somebody nicely. You were encouraging to them. You recognize that they were in a bad moment at that time for whatever reason, and they just needed a little bit more encouragement. I want you to think about that. What in your life can you do that's going to improve your chances in the future of opportunities coming your way? Now, if you think it's just be successful, um, you're likely going to perform completely different actions than if you say, you know what? I understand when things don't work out for other people. I've been in those moments. I want you to reflect on those. Everybody's been in those moments. And if you just had a helping hand, if somebody reached out to you, don't you think that that person would be the person that you would stick with and think about in the future? That that person right there would be the person that you would you would say, you know what? I'm going to contact that person in the future. I'm going to help them out in the future. All of those things, how they compound on each other. It's a long process, but man, it happens. It really happens. If you stick your neck out and you help other people, you don't even have to help them. You just have to acknowledge the things that they're going through, and you acknowledge that they're people, that things change, that all of a sudden a lot of things start changing in your life. And it might seem like it's a soft way of going about of life, right? Instead of the hard elbow way that there's only a successful way. But you know what? Things change. When you change the way that you look at the world, all of a sudden a lot of things start changing in your life. And I think some people think that that may be a better way of actually living life. You're a lot more forgiving of other people. You're a lot more forgiving of the things that happen to you, and you can let go. And I encourage you to do that. And perhaps if you treat other people nicely, if you show some empathy, and you actually sit there and do the hard work that it requires for you to recognize other people, perhaps you'll get more opportunities in the future. Perhaps just by doing that little simple thing increases your odds of getting opportunities in the future by 5%. That means 95% of the people that are going to do this, it's not going to work out for. 5%, that's an improvement that I'm willing to bet on. All right, take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.